So, first of all, welcome to all and good morning. We will start now our today's event. And I would like to thank everyone that has decided to join us and participate to our first cross-border hackathon, as we called it. Then a special thanks to our panelists that accepted to be here today to share with us their expertise and precious content. Today, really, I prepared a few notes for me because I want to be sure to point out all the relevant elements of our discussion. And now I will start by introducing myself. My name is Alessia Vetere, and I'm a public officer and EURES advisor and project manager of the cross-border project that we are representing today. I work at the regional PES, so at the Regional Public Employment Service of the Central Directorate for Labor, Education, Training and Family of the Autonomous Region Friuli Venezia Giulia. Today, I'm here both to present you our project, our aims and scopes, referring to the cross-border job mobility, and both introduce you our speakers. But before starting, I would like to spend a few words to explain how such event was born, because we can say that this event was born during the last month and initially had to represent, as usual, we can say, our final project event. But we thought that it was necessary to modify its main aim, expanding its final scope, also as a consequence of the pandemic and of the changes we are living and experiencing every day. So this event was born within the general EU labor mobility framework and EURES, so under the European Employment Services framework, and in particular under a cross-border job mobility project, namely EURADRIA, financed with EU funds, with the idea to both close, obviously, our current Project 2021 implementation, but especially to try to find, we can say, collective answers and ways to better face the changes we are still living as consequences of COVID-19 pandemic. Because, as you can imagine, the last 2 years have been full of difficulties, unexpected situations, and continuous modifications and changes that have affected not only our jobs and ways to interact, but also our entire social lives. So finally, with our colleagues, with our partners, we thought a lot about how we can better contribute, so how we can contribute more to this scope. And we thought about the better strategies to overcome, we can say, these obstacles. And finally, we found that the main strategy to succeed and to move forward could be only cooperation. So collaboration as a way to reinforce cohesion, as a way to create opportunities to sustain each other, facing the upcoming months and years. And resilience as a way to join our forces and combine our efforts to be able to better respond to the current and to the upcoming needs, sharing best practices, sharing alternative and innovative ways to manage our activities, exchanging methods of work, but also, finally, opinions. So, before giving the floor to our speakers, I have the pleasure to briefly present who EURADRIA Cross-Border Partnership is, where we work, our main scopes and services, reminding you that after the conferencing time, we will have an EUSAIR session through an online poll that we called Cross-Border Attitude, that requires, obviously, your attendance to detect your opinions, to focus your needs, and to better get to know each other. And now, a few minutes, here I will use my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, I will share with you a PowerPoint to better show you the contents of our cross-border project. So just 1 second. Okay, and here we are, sorry. Okay, so EURADRIA is a cross-border project born in 2008. Sorry, we have, okay, sorry, we have a problem with the presentation. Okay, oh, and, okay, sorry. So I was saying that EURADRIA is a cross-border project born in 2008 under the guidance of the trade unions as EURES for 6 years, until the time that in 2015 this guidance passed to the public employment services, already EURES members, as required by the eligibility conditions by the new proposal guidelines, and in particular to the autonomous region, Friuli Venezia Giulia, as the regional PES in charge of representing the lead applicant, so the entire partnership. Okay, our partnership, we can say that is variously composed. It's a multi-level partnership composed by many relevant actors within the labor market, not only for recruitment, placement, and matching procedures, as the PES are, but also in giving assistance to job seekers and employers in terms of social security and taxation issues, for example. So currently, our partnership is composed by 15 partners. We have both the Italian and Slovenian PES, the EURES National Coordination Offices, and the EURES advisor. We have trade unions and patronages. We have bilateral associations of employers. And now where we are in the EURADRIA region, so a region that assumed this name thanks to the project, and which includes the territory of the region Friuli Venezia Giulia in the northeast of Italy, close to the borders to 3 of the Slovenian statistical regions, namely the Goriška one, the Notranjsko-Kraška, and the Obalno-Kraška. So let's proceed through our scopes and aims. What do we do? But to better explain why we were born and what we do exactly, so who we serve, it's necessary to have a brief look at the figure of the frontier worker or commuter, as this kind of worker experiences, we can say, a particular condition. So first of all, a brief introduction to the relevant applicable legislation that underlies our free movement within EU and regulates our access to the labor market and social security systems. So we have the free movement of workers of Article 45 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union. That is one of the fundamental principles of the European Union. It encompasses and bestows upon EU workers the right to move freely, void of any discrimination with respect to employment, remuneration, or any other conditions related thereto. The right is furthermore elaborated upon and guaranteed by Regulation number 492/2011 on the freedom of movement for workers within the Union. Subsequent thereto, the recently enacted Directive 2014 number 54 on measures facilitating the exercise of rights conferred to workers in the context of freedom of movement for workers, the so-called Enforcement Directive, seeks to further solidify the rights for migrants workers enshrined in Article 45 and Regulation number 492/2011. And finally, we have the Regulation number 883/2004 on the coordination of social security systems that is additionally of particular relevance in safeguarding and facilitating the free movement of workers, albeit restricted in the field of social security. Labor migration, free movement of workers, and safeguarding the rights of these workers have always been considered pillars upon which Europe was built. But finally, the frontier worker is defined by Regulation number 883/2004, and in particular by Article 1F, as any person pursuing an activity as an employed or self-employed person in a member state and who resides in another member state to which he returns as a rule daily or at least once a week. So they are defined as above and constitute a particular category of migrant workers, but frontier workers haven't got a specific status, as they are generally not treated any differently from other workers, having the right to the free movement of workers who are EU nationals working in another member state. However, and here's the point, there are a number of factors that hamper frontier workers' right to free movement, and these include healthcare, social security and taxation issues, certain social advantages such as spatial education for children, access to public employment services in the neighboring countries. Some member states and social partners active at cross-border level reported the resistance in providing the same social advantages to frontier workers, for example, who are not resident in the member state as are provided to normal resident workers. But please note that the EU frontier workers, as estimated in 2014, are 1.1 million of individuals, of which 10,000 are the ones crossing daily the border between Italy and Slovenia. So finally, I think that now you can understand better who the frontier worker is. And finally, we come to what do we do? We offer services, and all our services are under the EURES regulation and quality framework. So under the European Employment Services Framework, to guarantee the same objectives, aims, scopes, and quality levels all over Europe. And we work both delivering on-site and online services through our one-stop shop portal. So in particular, as you can see, we offer information and guidance to frontier workers, employers, trainees, apprentices, job seekers in the projects area. We facilitate and increase the job matching, placement, and recruitment processes. We deepen information on cross-border labor markets and on the active labor market policies tools, as for example, apprenticeships and traineeships. We work to minimize specific obstacles to cross-border employment in the cross-border projects area through our infodesks network. We analyze data and evidence to the flows. We make services more accessible through the online EURADRIA one-stop shop portal available at www.euradria.eu. And here, finally, just a quick look on what you can access through the portal into already available languages, Italian and Slovenian, with an English version coming soon. You can find all the useful and updated information also, for example, regarding the COVID situation between the two countries and how to obtain assistance if you are an employer or if you are a frontier or a job seeker within this area, approaching our one-stop shop portal, finding our contacts. So the contacts of the InfoDesks network managed by the colleagues from trade unions, patronages, and associations of employers, with the precise aim to support both job seekers, workers, and employers in overcoming obstacles to cross-border job mobility. So finally, thank you for your attention. My time is finished, so it's a pleasure to leave the floor to the first of our speakers, coming directly and representing the European Commission, DG Employment, Unit E1, Labor Mobility, Public Employment Services, and ELA. So the floor to Mr. Lambert Kleiman, Deputy of Unit. So please, Mr. Kleiman, the floor is yours. We charge for you the PowerPoint.
Thank you very much, Alessia, and good morning to everyone, or maybe I should say buongiorno. So as I have to admit, I'm a bit sad that I'm sitting here so far away now, because in the let's call them the good old days, I would have probably traveled to your nice region and could have exchanged with all of you, but let's hope that these will come back sooner or later. Okay, so I don't see my PowerPoint yet, but I guess you are working on it, and I will just start, and maybe the slides come later. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things today, maybe not all that you put on my task list, but I will talk about labor mobility during COVID-19, and I will talk about the latest figures on cross-border movements and on transnational movements, and I will say maybe a bit more about cross-border partnerships in general. So by the way, if you just hear a telephone ringing in the background, it's mine, but I will not pick it up. Okay, so maybe we start with some figures. You know that the figures in the EU now are from 27 member states, so they're obviously lower with the departure of the UK, around 20%. These the numbers have reduced. But we still have, or had at the 1st of January 2020, we had almost 10 million movers at working age. So movers are those that live and work in a different country than their own. So that's sorry, just one back. You're too fast for me, sorry. And so this is a slight increase in comparison to the 2019 figures, but overall we have to say that the movement, or let's say the increase, has dramatically slowed down over the last years, and I will come back to that during COVID. Obviously, it came to a standstill. So this means 3.8% of the EU working age populations are movers, and on top of that, we have what Alessia explained already, the frontier workers, which are around 1.5 million altogether, but I will explain that a bit better in a second, which make up around 0.1 of all persons employed in the EU. Sorry. Okay, now some specific figures, or to explain you a bit where these cross-border movements are taking place. So I'm talking here now only about what we called earlier the frontier workers. So where are they, or where do they go to? You see from the figures that most of them are going to Switzerland and Germany, to Italy as well, a few, but in comparison to the other countries, considerably less. So this is to a large extent, obviously, EURADRIA, so in your region, but as well coming from Austria, from Switzerland, and from France. Although the figures are very considerable. Next one, please. So where do they come from? So what is their country of residence? And there you see that the biggest number comes actually from France, which is maybe not so surprising because they are in the neighborhood of several countries that we would classify as high-income countries, so Switzerland, Luxembourg, and Germany. So they become very much attracted by these countries. So again, we have Italy here. So this is, let me see, it's the seventh from the left with around 100,000. And we have actually Slovenia as well at the very right-hand side. In comparison to the size of Slovenia, it's still a considerable number of persons. Next one, please. Yeah, this slide shows the relation between cross-border workers and mobile EU people, so EU movers that live and work in the other countries. So the EU 27 workers in most countries is actually much higher. You see the red triangle. We have only 2 countries where it is relatively equal. So we have here in the middle, you see the Czech Republic, where actually the number of cross-border workers is higher than the one of EU movers. But for the others, it might be a bit closer or not so close. But in most countries, and for your region, it might be interesting as well to look at the third from the left, Croatia. So there's a big transnational movement there, and in comparison as well for Italy. Okay, so these maybe just as an explanation on cross-border workers. I would like us to have as well a short look on the transnational movements. Next one, please. So where do these transnational movers, these 10 million, actually come from, and where do they go to? I don't need to read out all the figures. 1/5, so around 20%, are from Romania. Another 20% is from Italy and Poland. And where do they go to? Well, to a large extent, 1/3 goes to Germany, and the others, 1/3 goes to Italy, to Spain, or to France. Next one, please. So now a word about mobile work in the pandemic. And I think this goes to a large extent for both cross-border workers, but as well for transnational. The pandemic has reduced mobility, but only to a certain degree. What is maybe more striking is that all of a sudden it became pretty clear how important the mobile workers are. And it's very interesting then to see that the importance of mobile workers for the economy does not necessarily match the perception of people living in their direct neighborhood. So what I want to say is all of a sudden borders were either closed or it was very difficult to pass the borders. And then everyone understood that the trucks with the deliveries were not coming through anymore because the drivers or the truckers could not pass the borders anymore. But especially then when we look at the cross-border workers that worked, for example, in the healthcare, all of a sudden they could not come. They were simply not allowed, and only after a couple of days and weeks, the member states realized that this was absolutely necessary. And I'm not only talking then about healthcare, or it was really everywhere. I mean, you can imagine that engineers in a power plant that all of a sudden did not come to work anymore because they couldn't cross the border. That was a real problem. So the connection between the economies is much bigger than people would have thought. So at that time, the Commission realized that as well rather quickly, and so what we did is we tried to define what are critical occupations where we recommended strongly to the member states that the crossing of the border for these critical occupations would be immediately facilitated. And I think it worked then after a short period for almost everyone, which was certainly necessary. Next slide, please. The figures obviously were difficult to find out what exactly happens in these weeks after March, April 2020. But what we saw that the effect on figures came in waves, as actually the pandemic itself. So in summer 2020, it looked as things were getting back to normal, but then the next wave came, and so on and so on. What was very much visible right from the beginning is that transnational movers, so living and working in another country, were much more affected by unemployment. So when the economy went down, those were the first to lose their jobs. And this is mainly, according to our analysis, because of the sectorial mix in which they work. Very often they worked in HoReCa, in tourism, in services in general, and when the economy came to a standstill and there were the lockdowns everywhere, obviously these people were immediately laid off. The other phenomenon that we observed, that there was for a certain time a strong move back to their home country, something that we call return mobility. This has been an ongoing trend for the last 6-7 years, that the return picks up, increases further. At the same time, and the most likely driver of this is that people are staying much shorter abroad, so meaning the employment spells in the other country are getting shorter and shorter. So it's not like in the 60s or 70s that people go for a lifetime over there. Next one, please. And that's basically what I wanted to give you as figures on the way. And now I would like to talk a bit about EURES and the support in cross-border regions. So there's one main message that I want to give you, and maybe you can go back to the slide. Sorry. Yes, there's one main message, and that's there's only one EURES. I know that today in the audience we have some national coordination offices and some EURES staff that works more on transnational or cross-border. But it's one network. We all work for EURES. We all want to offer services to job seekers that need us and to employers that need our services. So we have now several players, and I would like to say a word on these as well. You know that the operational management of EURES has been now given, at least on the EU level, to the European Labour Authority. And the European Labour Authority will organize all the things around the governance of the coordination group, the communication, training, and so on. And I think it's a good thing that or let's say that an independent body that is far more operational than the Commission can do that. The Commission still has its role. We are still financing, for example, the cross-border partnerships, the targeted mobility schemes, and and we are still a player in all other fields, like you see in my at my presence here today. So what we are trying to do is to cooperate with the European Labour Authority in such a way that nobody knows that there has been any change. And I think the transition worked very well, and the colleagues working in Bratislava have really taken up their duties in an extraordinary way. Just one last thing when I talk about one network, you know that one of the objectives of the EURES reform had been to open up the network. So now, in comparison to some years ago, we have 200 new members and partners, partly private organizations. So the network really grows. There are more players, which on the other hand makes it as well necessary to invest more in the network governance and in things like communication and training. And I know that you want to talk today about as well cooperation between cross-border partnerships, which is a very good thing that we will support. It might be partly easier and partly more difficult during these days, because you obviously can easily set up some virtual meetings, but you miss the personal contact. So I know that in the past there have been regular meetings between cross-border partnerships, that there have been some sort of staff exchange and visits and common trainings, and this should continue. I mean, the training that ELA is going to organize will be as well for the EURES advisors from the cross-border regions. So you will be embedded in a bigger network, and in which everyone has to play its role. Now, next one, please. So now maybe just to recall, it was partly said by Alessia already what the EURES regulation says about cross-border partnerships. I will not read that out. What I want to say here is the EURES regulation recognizes EURES cross-border partnerships, which is a good thing for the partnerships themselves, because they have a clear role. So this is the definition in Article 3.7. There's as well an obligation for member states to encourage close cooperation at cross-border level, but it does not necessarily need to be in the form of a cross-border partnership. What should be said here is, if I make the connection now to the funding, about which I will talk very soon, when it's written there, member states shall encourage, for us it means that this is a demand-driven activity by member states that put something together, and they, if they need the support, the financial support, they will apply for it. Okay, then the Article 27 lists a bit the activities that the cross-border partnerships are supposed to do. I will not go into details. Next one, please. Now, this is maybe the more important part now for the immediate future for you. So there's the relatively new regulation establishing the European Social Fund Plus, the ESF Plus, which lists as some of the activities that this program should finance in the area from 2021 to 2027. So it lists the cross-border partnerships, meaning we will support the cross-border partnerships as long as we get the money. And until 2027, which coincides with the multi-annual financial framework that has been established for the EU, there's the security of funding the cross-border partnerships, and afterwards everything starts new with a new 7 years budget. But right now we have this likelihood. So the cross-border partnerships the funding of these partnerships is secured for the next, 6 years. Okay, and now I think that's my next, and then my next slide is as well the last one. I think all of those of you that have looked into the call for proposals know that, so I will not be very detailed on that. what is important here is that we will publish a call for proposals every 2 years. So we had one in 2021, and we will have the next one in 2023. And then the support that we give runs always for 2 years. And we are a bit late with the evaluation of the call from 2021, but you should, or you should hear, or all those that applied should hear from us sometime in January, I assume. I've put these specific tasks and actions on the slide, and just to show you what we expect from you. But on top of that, on top of these, you can do your own things. And I know from the past where I had very often contacts with the representatives of EURADRIA, that you had as well, you had always a concern about the quality of work, the protection of workers, undeclared work in the region. So if this is still one of your priorities, then it is obviously possible that you put that into your funding proposal. Okay, I think I stop here. I probably talked too much. I apologize for that, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kleiman. It has been really a pleasure to have you here. And now I'm here with my colleague Giulio Salvazzo from Infomest that will moderate the event. And I would like to mention also the other colleagues that you don't see, but they are all here to support this event. So Mario Di Sepio will manage the final poll. Maria Teresa Bazzaro from CISL FVG will manage the social media communication, with Ilaria Dal Pio Luogo from Infomest. And now, Giulio, please.
Thank you, Alessia. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Kleiman, for your contribution. Just to anticipate some technical questions. So we are collecting all the questions that are emerging on the chat, and also together jointly with the rapper in the upcoming days, we will send you all the contribution. We have not so much time, and the paneler needs to have their time, so we need to collect them everything, and then we will provide you in the upcoming days all the content. And now the floor to Mr. Joachim Smedman, European Trade Union Confederation legal advisor and member of the European Labour Authority Stakeholders Group. Please, Mr. Smedman, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning from my side. I hope you can hear me. I assume so. Indeed, I represent the European Trade Union Confederation, the umbrella organization of trade unions across Europe. I work particularly on labor mobility issues, so that covers frontier, but also posted and seasonal workers, for example. And as also mentioned, I'm a member of the stakeholder group of the European Labour Authority. The stakeholder group is a group of trade union and employers representatives, and as you may know, this authority oversees EU rules on labor mobility with the aim to promote fair labor mobility in terms of better enforcement in cross-border situations, but also information to workers and employers. And I think there's many lessons we can learn from the pandemic as we look forward. So I'll say a few words about this today. Thank you very much for the invitation. So let's start with the point made by the Commission that first of all, the pandemic has really underlined the importance of cross-border workers and the extent to which the internal market of the European Union already today is highly integrated. But not only did it show the importance of these workers, but also the particularly vulnerable situation of these workers. So what we really need to draw as a lesson from this is that free movement of workers is something that not only has to work in times of normality, but also of course in times of crisis. In other words, free movement and those who exercise this free movement must not be left behind, because what we see looking back at the past years in terms of the pandemic, but also now again a little bit with the fourth wave, what we see is the obstacles linked to the closing of borders, the lack of coordination, cooperation, access to information, and with the new spread of new variants. Also, there's increasing risks of fragmentation between different member states in terms of lockdown, vaccination requirements, or testing requirements, and so on. So it's really important that we cooperate on these issues, because we already now we see member states rolling out the third doses for vaccines. Some are quicker than others. How will those issues be dealt with in the cross-border situations? We also have witnesses from some member states where frontier workers who have not received vaccines recognized by the European Medicines Agency, but such as a Russian or a Chinese vaccine, for example, that is then not recognized in a cross-border under other member states. So there's risks of legal uncertainty still today and still developing. So on the one hand, this is really important question for those who need to reach their workplaces because they need to be physically present there. On the other hand, we also have the situation with telework and the legal uncertainties that can bring in terms of social security coordination and risks of double taxation. So also here it is very important that member states cooperate together also on a bilateral basis. So for example, I will share with you in the chat a report recently prepared by the European Labour Authority, mapping the different kind of scenarios that can arise in relation to social security coordination in cross-border situations. And at the end of the report, you can also find country fishes for every member state on how they did to address these situations. So I believe it's a quite useful report. From the ETUC side, what we have been doing is since the start of the pandemic, we've also been mapping how different groups or types of workers are experiencing the challenges and also good practices that have developed, also for frontier workers. So here it's called the ETUC COVID Watch briefing notes, and the one on frontier workers really maps and identifies by countries or by pairs of countries which types of good practices that were developed for frontier workers to be able to cross borders more smoothly. But now this ETUC briefing note has already been updated twice. I will share with you the latest version, which is still already quite old. So we have just launched a call for yet another update of this so we will publish a new updated version in January. So I'll share the link to all the different briefing notes at the end of my intervention. What is happening now at European level in terms of free movement of workers under COVID? Well, I would like to draw your attention to one particular item, namely, as you may know, there is since more than a year already a council recommendation agreed by the member states on a coordinated approach to free movement during COVID-19. This was agreed already last year, early 2021, I would say, but it has already been updated twice. And now the Commission has proposed yet another update of this council recommendation. So the proposal was presented by the European Commission in November and is currently being discussed once again by the member states, how to adjust this council recommendation in the light of, for example, the EU digital COVID certificate that was adopted this summer, increasing vaccination rates, but also now the increasing spread again of the virus. So for example, what the Commission has suggested is that the recommendation would go from what it is now more of a geographical based logic to a personal based approach, depending on the vaccination status of the workers. But of course, there's also coordination around testing and quarantine requirements. And here, in the same way as for the previous versions of the recommendation, the Commission has proposed an important exception for frontier workers, in particular, saying that frontier workers should be exempt from quarantine. So that of course means that if you're not vaccinated, for example, you can still be subject to testing. And here the ETUC has submitted comments to the Commission, but also to the presidencies of the Council that will lead the negotiations between the member states on this update, pointing out that, of course, from the ETUC side, we believe any such testing should be proportionate. I mean, if you cross the border every day, it is perhaps an obstacle if you have to be tested every day. We believe also that the definition of what is a frontier worker should perhaps be a little bit broader, in the sense that now it talks about people living in border regions, but we also have people who come from further away, crossing the border on a weekly basis, for example. So also here we believe it's important to recognize their essential function and the need to exempt them from quarantine. We have also pointed out that when rules change in border regions, it needs to be announced with more than 24-hour notice, because this is quite short for both workers and employers to adapt, especially if it happens during the weekend, for example. So we really think that 2 working days, let's say, at the least should be a notice. And of course, in border regions, it's also particularly important that information is given also in many languages. This is important. So this is ongoing negotiation still. Once the Council has agreed with the member states on the updated recommendation, it will of course enter into force. And final point, looking a little bit more forward, the Commission also this week proposed an update on the legislative framework on the Schengen code for the internal borders of the Schengen area, and also here the Commission has proposed an exemption for frontier workers in case of a border closure under exceptional circumstances inside the Schengen border area. So here it's of course very welcome to see that the Commission is also drawing lessons from the COVID pandemic and looking forward. So this is of course something we will also follow closely from the ETUC side. So with these words, I thank you for the attention and happy to follow the rest of the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smerman, and I will kindly ask you to all the panel to try to respect the time. This is my unpleasant role, so please forgive me for that. But now I'll leave the floor to Ms. Katia Mastracci, Italian EURES National Coordinator. Please, Mr. Mastracci, the floor is yours.
Hello, and good morning to everyone, and thank you for this seminar. So first of all, I would like to thank you, the Friuli Venezia Giulia region and the project staff for carrying out the EURADRIA project from 2015 on behalf of the Italian EURES network. A special thanks to Alessia Vetere, who well support the planning and the implementation of the different editions of the EURADRIA Cross-Border Partnership. So thanks, Alessia. This experience has made it possible to strengthen the cooperation with EURES Slovenia during the last 5 years and to consolidate services from frontiers workers between the two countries. So I also thank a lot Valeria Okorn and the Slovenian EURES staff for this fruitful cooperation, very fruitful cooperation. So EURADRIA project is a very relevant experience for us also in terms of cooperation with social parties, institutions and other organizations involved in the implementation of the activities at local, regional and national level. Starting from this experience, it has been possible to share practices and tools with other EURES cross-border partnerships in other countries, and also to participate at new call under the new ESF Plus program. All this with the aim to improve our support services, not only for Italian and Slovenian frontier workers, but also for other frontiers workers in other Italian border regions, and also to enhance fruitful cooperation with other EURES countries. So as we well know, and as other speakers has already said, during the last 2 years, the social and economic scenarios at European and national level were changed. In general, during this difficult period, the EURES advisors were requested to update their way to work and tools used to provide EURES services. This represents a new challenge and at the same time a relevant opportunity to renew the important role of the network. In Italy, after a modest decrease of the employment rate in the first quarter of 2021, the labor market is assisting to a significant increase in occupation. Comparing last Eurostat data, the Italian employment trend of people aged 20-64 is similar to the one registered in EU. In the second quarter of 2021, the Italian employment rate around 62% was close to the national pre-pandemic employment rate around 64%, although still far from the EU employment rate. So we will have new challenges to face for next year. And as Italian EURES network during 2022, we will continue, obviously, to improve our support services for employers and job seekers. Our strategy at national level will be based on four main strengths. The first one is, in general, to continue to strengthen the bilateral cooperation with the EURES NCOs in other countries, to share job opportunities and to improve our networking at EU level. The second strand is to implement the EURES targeted mobility scheme project led by us and started on March 2021 under the EASY program. The project supports job seekers over 18 years old from EU, Norway and Ireland, and support these job seekers to find a job, traineeship or apprenticeship in Europe. The added value of TMS projects is to integrate the EURES traditional services with more targeted services and financial benefits, helped to reinforce the role of the EURES network in supporting fair mobility experiences. So the third strand is to enlarge and consolidate the cooperation with social partners at national level, consolidating a permanent national technical board with the aim to increase awareness on obstacles to mobility of workers, especially for frontier workers, and also the aim is to elaborate policy recommendations to support and to strengthen mobility of workers. The fourth strand is to support returning workers with the new opportunities offered in Italy and to answer to the labor market new needs of Italian companies by facilitating the match with workers' profiles from all over Europe. And last but not least, to continue to support the implementation of the EURES Cross-Border Partnership EURADRIA, led by Friuli Venezia Giulia, and to increase other bilateral cross-border partnerships, formal or non-formal, with other NCOs in the north and southern Italian border regions. Until now, our strategy as EURES National Coordination Office is based on a circular, integrated vision, considering that the actions carried out within the projects financed by the European Commission are intended to have relevant effects in terms of awareness about EURES and of more qualified and personalized services provided to job seekers and employers. So with this aim, I am very pleased that the EURADRIA project will continue to improve its partnership and services in the future. So thank you very much and good work.
Thank you, Ms. Mastracci. And now the floor to Ms. Valeria O'Corn, Slovenia EURES National Coordinator. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will try to be short because I see we are quite late. I have a short presentation, but it doesn't matter if you show it or not, but maybe you can show it and I will talk behind. First of all, I would also like to thank you very much for the cooperation in the EURADRIA project. Especially to Alessia.
Mr. Korn, sorry for interrupt you. We have a problem with the volume, so if you can increase your volume, we will appreciate.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
If you can just push closer, the microphone will be perfect.
It's the first time that this
Okay.
Now it's better. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, First of all, thank you for the cooperation in EURADRIA project, especially to Alessia, which coordinated the whole project, and also to our partners, because EURADRIA also strengthened our partnership cooperation within this so-called Primorska regions. And we have two partners in the national framework from this region. So I would just like to, next slide please, I would just like to go really shortly through the EURES national activities and then to cross-border situation. What we focused in the last years, let's say, of course, the first focus was the implementation of EURES regulation. Maybe this sounds a little bit far away from cross-border cooperation, but it actually influenced in the whole functioning of the EURES network. For example, we have to pay a lot of attention on IT issues, that our job vacancies and CVs are published on the EURES portal, that we implement European classifications for skills, competencies and occupations, so-called ESCOM classification, so that we can do better matching on the national level, but also on cross-border level. And in the last years, because of COVID, of course, we paid a lot of attention. Can you show the next slide, please? We paid a lot of attention to development of our online tools and services. COVID somehow encouraged this, but I can say that we were never closed for clients. In any time, clients could come to our premises, including to EURES advisors, if, of course, if they follow these COVID measures. So I can say that EURES advisors were always available for clients. We had less clients during COVID. We had more cross-border clients, more questions about social security issues, about traveling to the workplace, about COVID measures and so on. And we try to, of course, inform our clients as much as possible. We also paid a lot of attention to training on the national level, how to use new tools, how to organize, for example, group sessions through online tools. And we developed also a lot of tools for online tools for clients. For example, now we are also renovating our EURES national website. And we are changing our methods of work with clients, really a lot of things, but we have a lot of support by ESF project, which covers all national EURES, I can say. And we are also planning to continue the ESF funding in the next financial perspective. We are very active also in targeted mobility schemes. We are cooperating with Sweden. Of course, the results were not as expected because of COVID. And besides that, we are also within EURES. We have also national targeted mobility schemes for needs. It's connected with so-called new initiative ALMA, where we also will be active in the future. And the next meeting of so-called future ALMA, one of the next meetings will be in Slovenia next year, in Ljubljana. And within EURES, it's also a contact point for equal treatment of workers. So we provide also legal information and advice to clients, but at the same time, these two legal experts are very much helping also to our EURES advisors if they have particular questions, because EURES advisors are usually not legal experts. So next slide, please. I just would try to briefly present small Slovenia is covered. We have a lot of bordering countries: Croatia, Hungary, Austria, and Italy. And only with Italy we have cross-border partnership. And mobility flows goes from Croatia and Slovenia to Austria and Italy. We cooperate with all neighboring countries, of course, with Italy a lot, but also with Croatia and Austria. With Austria, its cooperation is very targeted to job broking. With Croatia, we have different cooperation, but let's say in every year we meet. This year we met online to cooperate our future activities. We don't have much cooperation with Hungary in the last years. Not so many workers are EU workers are working in Slovenia. Among these neighboring countries, there are about 5,000 workers from Croatia at the moment working in Slovenia, and about only 500 from Italy, and approximately the same is the amount of Hungarian workers. But Austrians are usually very few, and they are usually in top positions. For us, I can say that national activities and cross-border activities are not separated from each other. They are overlapping. For example, we have one EURES advisor in cross-border region in EURADRIA, but she's working both for transnational and also for cross-border. I can say that in the last time of COVID, during summer, in autumn, we even managed to have some on-site events, for example, one job fair, and also we personally met with Croatian colleagues and so on. And now, of course, we are closed again, but we hope that the situation will change next year. We also hope that we will have new cross-border project, new EURADRIA, that it will be approved, and that we will get funding from ESF for national activities. And also our national plan is really quite huge for next year. For example, we plan, I just want to mention one event in Koper. We plan on-site cross-border job fair, and we hope that this COVID situation will become better. So thank you very much. I hope that I wasn't too long, but in the end, of course, I can answer to all the questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. O'Korn. Now, since the flexibility was on the main hot topic during this period, we will ask you to cut the break. We will postpone that before the pool. And so if everything is okay, we will leave the floor to Mr. Filippo Lavecchia, which is representing the Office 6, Confidential Territorial Cooperation Operational Programs, International Affairs and Bilateral Cooperation of the Italian National Cohesion Agency. Please, Mr. Lavecchia, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I give you the cordial greetings from the agency director, Mr. Esposito, and from my responsible, Mr. Galletta, head of the ETC department. My activity in the agency for territorial cohesion regards the actuation and monitoring of the ETC programs belonging to the Alps and the Central Europe regions. The agency, as you know, is a government institution responsible for the implementation of the cohesion policy in Italy. The agency promotes economic progress and cohesion in order to remove the territorial gap within the country and strengthen the administrative capacity of the public administration. Okay, I will try to show my presentation, even if, just a moment.
Può utilizzare il tasto condividi schermo,
Yes.
o se vuole gliele condividiamo noi.
No, I think it is not a problem. I don't know if you are seeing the presentation.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my presentation focuses on some lessons learned from the 14-20 programming period. I would like to share with you how the agency is moving to take into account these lessons, also through new tools and actions for the 21-27 cycle. Okay, I put in Let's start with some implementation data, focusing on the Italian participation in the ETC 1420 programs. As you can see, around 30% of the total resources have been assigned to the Italian partners, 1 billion over 3 billions. And if we see the column of projects, almost 19% of all funded projects see the participation of at least one Italian partner, and 50% of the projects have an Italian partner as leader. And if we will see the last column, 1/3 of total partners are of Italian nationality. And it is a great result. And this result cannot be taken for granted in this very competitive environment, where many countries and many beneficiaries participate to the calls. We can say that there was also a wide involvement of the Italian territories, and also if we see the financial progress data, they are very performing. So starting from these very positive results, how can we improve the implementation phase for the next period? First of all, we have to say that the monitoring process of the Interreg programs is too focused on the collection of quantitative data, while we should shift our attention to the qualitative aspects. And we have to ask to ourselves, did the financed project effectively contribute to satisfy the needs of the territories? Did they produce a real added value? While on one end, it is positive that there are partners with high skills in the presentation and also in the implementation of the projects. On the other hand, these partners, due to their high know-how, monopolize the resources and prevent the entry of other beneficiaries with innovative ideas. And this process prevents the optimal use of the resources, because sometimes we have to reject projects that better fit the local needs. Another important element we have developed is the promotion of the transversal dialogue among the programs. For this reason, we have created the coordination groups by geographical area with the participation of the managing authorities and the national contact points. These groups promote discussion and coordination in the planning phase, and we hope to have their presence also in the implementation phase. And finally, Interreg programs should be more known by citizens. In fact, the latest Eurobarometer survey on the knowledge of the EU funds showed that in Italy only 18% of citizens know Interreg, and this is one of the lowest percentage in Europe. Okay, what can we do in the future to improve this situation? First of all, we have to break the bubble where ETC is limited. And we can do it through some actions. First of all, capitalization. We want to capitalize the achieved results, increasing the initial investment. Then with the mainstreaming, meaning with this term, the integration of several sources of funding, both European and national, including also the resources of the PNRR. And finally, with the embedding, meaning with this term to increase the link between Interreg programs and the macro-regional and basin strategies. Which tools the agency is implementing to facilitate this process? As you can see in this slide, for example, number 3, there is a web section dedicated to the ETC, accessible from the homepage of the agency website. It contains thematic reports on cooperation projects, fact sheets, technical focuses, and so on. Then there is the ETC report, drawn up every year by the agency, thanks to the data provided by the regions. And we have created also an online library and a digital interactive library with many useful contents on the cohesion policy. Another important thing is the creation of a CAP and COM community, where it is possible to exchange and communicate experiences and achievements related to the current programming period. And then there is a smart CTE, an open informative system with a database containing more than 1,500 projects, which allows to perform queries and extract geolocalized information. And finally, there is another activity, is the flagship projects. We called these flagship projects highlight projects, meaning with this term, projects that have produced important evidence and strong impacts on the territories. And till now, we have collected 73 highlight projects. What we want to do is to create a national capitalization plan in order to promote and enhance the results of the projects. And which challenges for futures? We must encourage the participation of newcomers, able to bring new ideas. We want to facilitate their participation through the simplification of the procedures. And we are working hard on this point. We want to promote a strategic vision of a wide area, looking at the other available resources. And during the monitoring phase, projects must be evaluated not only because they meet deadlines and advance spending, but also because they realize what they have declared in the application form, and because their outputs and outcomes meet the needs of the area and produce significant effects. We want to realize a cultural growth, because this kind of growth generates progress. Money alone doesn't create development. And at the end, I'm available for your further question or request. Please don't hesitate to contact me and to ask me any question. Thanks for your attention. Good continuation, and season's greetings from my side.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lavecchia. And now the floor to Mr. Francesco Cocco, Secretary General of the Adriatic-IONIAN EUROREGION EUSAIR. So, Mr. Cocco, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks so much for the invite, and special thanks to Alessia Veter and the EURADRIA project, and so the Friuli Venezia Giulia region, an important partner of my organization, the Adriatic-IONIAN EUROREGION, with which we have had a very useful collaboration from many years. The same excellent collaboration that we have with Informest, an important institute of your region. My speech focused on the new cohesion policies and the different possibility it will be offered to enhance employment policies. You know that these are the weeks very important in which the individual country of the European Union must define with the European Commission their proposal for a partnership agreement. And then the region, a singular region when they exist in different countries, like Italy, my country, and have a competence can advance their regional operation plan. That is an important instrument to implement the different policies of European Union policies, and the labor market is one of these important policies. Just today, for example, in Italy, the agreement between the state and the single regions on the Italian proposal for a partnership agreement should be approved. This is the hope of this day, because this is the start, a very start, real start of the new cohesion policies. In fact, in this consideration, the new cohesion policies 2001-2007 for my country, for example, Italy, is worth around 82 billion of euros. The regional plan will thus be able to begin to finance or continue to support action related to the 5 policies of the European Union. This amount offers a particular positive coincidence from the financial point of view, because we have the huge resource of National Recovery and Resilience Plan. Also, to stay in the example of my country, Italy, this amount is on 2,035 billion euro. The new cohesion policies we have been launched, 82 billion euro. The new national programs, the famous PON in Italy, the National Operative Plan, the new Development and Cohesion Fund, an important fund that in Italy is an important budget of 147 billion euro, and in the main team still commit huge results of the old programming period. Another important budget of 100 billion euro. This amount for a country of Italy, an important country of the European Union, is a total budget for the next years of 500 billion of euro. You will understand that if there is no problem in the next few years, it will be that of financial resource. Then the problem will be the coordination of the various initiatives and the level of governance. The other problem is a serious multi-level governance can help to make the most of results. And the other real problem for my side, for my point of view, will be the need to have adequate human resource, both from 2 point of view of preparation and from a numerical point of view. You know how the public administration, for example, in Italy, has few employees in this moment in respect of the old programming period. This will be the real change of this amount, an important action from the point of view of administrative capacity and support for public administration. And here, the other real change to implement cross-border cooperation action, exchange good practice, and implement those policies capable of increasing the quality of life of our citizens. In recent years, also on the subject of work, the exchange between different European regions and pre-accession states has highlighted the positive of enhancing common experience. The job market, an important goal for the next European Union policies, most financed by the same European Union, also due to the financial crisis resulting from the pandemic period and the need to be able to imagine a quality economic recovery. Project initiative like yours and organization that have been putting these issues, and the Center for years must have more and more operational leadership for the implementation of development projects. The last my reflection is in consideration to the EUSAIR, the European strategy for the Adriatic-IONIAN region. We have an important action plan of the European strategy for this important region, also provide for action capable of enhancing and implementing projects that improve the level of work in the Western Balkans. It will also be decisive for our territories represented here today. Thank you again for this invitation and for this very interesting reflection.
Thank you, Mr. Cocco. And now the floor to Mr. Ivan Kurzero, representing the European Grouping of Territorial Cooperation, JACGO. Mr. Kurzero, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Giulio. Thank you, all the colleagues. Would be possible to have the possibility to share my screen? Would you allow me?
Yes. Just a second.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I see the button. Thank you. Okay. Am I sharing the screen? Is it okay? Can you see it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So with this presentation, I would like just to briefly introduce the European Grouping for Territorial Cooperation, GO, that is basically an EGTC. It's composed by 3 municipalities. The municipality of Gorizia in Italy and Nova Gorica and Šempeter Vrtojba in Slovenia. So basically, this is a peculiar association of municipalities that has been registered in September 2011. So this year, basically, we celebrated the 10th year of existence. It is, as an EGTC body, that has a legal personality, and the main focus, the main scope of action of the EGTC is to support the implementation of policies that are somehow enhancing the integration of these 3 cities that, as you all know, form a single urban area, basically. Additionally, I would like to highlight that also the EGTC GO will be one part of the delivery structure that will also support the implementation of the European Capital of Culture 2025 that is being awarded to Nova Gorica and Gorizia jointly. So what we have implemented in this year, so basically the most important thing is that the EGTC GO has been the intermediate body of an integrated territorial investment. This practically means that thanks to 10 million of funds that have been awarded in the framework of the Italy and Slovenia Cross-Border Cooperation Program, we somehow managed to implement specific activities in 2 different frame or sectors, basically. One related to the implementation and enhancing of services related to the health, basically. And on the other hand, we also managed to somehow implement a network of cycling and walking paths, and that is connecting the 3 cities, and this is somehow enhancing the possibility to attract tourists from abroad to visit the surrounding of the area. Beside this, I mean, not only just focusing on the implementation of the activities, what is also considered a valuable experience is the fact that the EGTC, basically, especially in the framework of the implementation of this integrated territorial investment, somehow managed to pave the way for new procedures to be carried out and to be implemented at cross-border level. So on the basis of the fact that public procurement rules for an EGTC are possible to be applied according to one or other country rules, basically legal framework. And this is really the added value of the EGTC in itself. So to go quickly into the health project, Salute Zdravstvo, that somehow has definitely some similarities also because it tries to foster the freedom of movement of patients between the two countries. So it had a significant investment. It's 5 million euros. It is basically, it started in April 2017, and it's supposed to be over on the 30th of June of this year. And as I said, the main goal of the project was to set up a network of cross-border health services, basically trying to get the best of the assets in the health sector available in the 3 municipalities, analyze them, and try to understand what could be somehow supported in order to have a kind of scale economy, so to reduce the cost of these services by allowing the use of these services by citizens by people of both sides of the border. Of course, the network meant the involvement of specific stakeholders, so not only the 3 municipalities, but also we had the involvement of the Azienda per l'Assistenza Sanitaria, that is the responsible health structure in Friuli Venezia Giulia, and the Splošna Bolnica of Nova Gorica and the Zdravstveni Dom of Nova Gorica as well, together with the psychiatric hospital in Idria. What were the main health sectors that where we implemented the project? So basically, there were five areas that included autism, social inclusion, mental health, the kind of Codice Unico di Prenotazione, that is the code in order to book the health services once you need them, basically, and the physiological pregnancy, that is also a sub project that involved the possibility to set up mixed teams of doctors and nurses, midwives, etc., etc. So what is very relevant in this sense is that beside, of course, the signing of cross-border protocols that are paving the way for using these services by the population on both sides of the border, what is perceived as very valuable is that there was the setup, and it's still working, the setup of cross-border medical teams. So basically, we managed to create also, when it comes to medical wording and the possibility to understand each other also in terms of the kind of services that are provided. Additionally, of course, there was also some significant infrastructure intervention in terms of refurbishing of specific spaces in the health facilities of the two cities. What is also interesting in general is the fact that, this was somehow the critical part of the project sometimes, that of course, being the health sector managed differently, I mean, in Italy at regional level and in Slovenia at national level, sometimes this is need additional efforts in order to streamline the different decisions that are taken, because in general, the different administrative level would like to discuss with the same level of the service that they belong to. This is a general overview of the things that have been carried out in terms especially of the renovation of spaces, refurbishment, and the work of the joint cross-border medical teams. And of course, the activities, as I said, will be probably over in June next year, but still there is plan to somehow enhance what has been already achieved, bring it further, and think already, as we heard in previous intervention, also to consider what could be done in the framework of the programming period 2021-2027. I just wanted to stay into the time slot that I've been received. So thank you very much. And of course, I'm available if later on there will be any question in relation to my presentation. Thanks a lot. The floor is back to you,
Mr. Curzolo. Just to anticipate that we will have, after the final panelists, a break of 5-6 minutes. And now the floor is for Mr. Martin Guillermo Ramirez, Secretary General of the Association of European Border Region, representing here the European Cross-Border Citizen Alliance. Mr. Ramirez, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I have understood that we have to fit to less than the 10 minutes that were initially allocated in order to help the running of the activity. So I will try to be very brief. But I would like to also to share with you my screen, if possible. Let's see where I am. I cannot.
You are allowed to share your screen. Okay, thank you.
Now you can see my presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I have included here the declaration because, well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm representing the Association of European Border Regions, but the organizers were stressing to present the declaration that we have signed on the 7th of October in Strasbourg between the three organizations, three networks dealing with cross-border cooperation, our association, La Mission Opérationnelle Transfrontalière, the MOT, which is a French organization working at the French borders, but also with a European approach. We work in close collaboration. And CESCI, the Central European Services for Cross-Border Initiatives, based in Budapest and working all the borders of Hungary, that you know they have plenty of EGTCs, also in the Western Balkans and the Carpathians. After the experience with the COVID pandemic, particularly, we decided that we had more time to meet online, and then this was a new way of doing things. So we tried to approach this opportunity to have permanent and frequent exchanges among us and with other stakeholders dealing with cross-border cooperation in Europe, with the EU institutions, etc. Especially looking at the worrying situation at the borders. The first point that we had is that the pandemic was declared just 2 weeks before the 30th anniversary of Schengen, and something that was like set in stone, the free movement of citizen services at the internal borders of the EU suddenly was deleted. The first idea by many member states was closing the borders. And even after several waves of pandemic, when we saw that closing the borders probably was not the best solution, still the first idea is always closing the border. And this drew our attention the fact that still national sovereignty plays a major role, even in the EU. And this is, of course, we are not against the sovereignty of states, and we don't want to delete the borders, but we would like to delete at least the effects of the borders in the mobility, which is something you are debriefing very well today in these sessions, but also on the process of European integration. We need to overcome all these obstacles. And then when there is a situation of crisis, the first idea, closing the border. So on the other hand, we also saw that suddenly cross-border facts, the cross-border citizens, commuters, were suddenly on most agendas. Many member states discover suddenly that there is a cross-border interaction. You know, many had to close the border and they had to open 24 hours later because they discovered that there were many doctors and nurses crossing the border to work in the hospital in the other side. And then with the closing of the checkpoint, they had to make 100 or 200 kilometers more to get to do their job. But also there are people who have the land in the other side and they have to produce agriculture or cattle, and they need to cross the border. And also there are many people doing business every day across the border, or studying, or just shopping. So we receive plenty of testimonies from the small businesses working in the border that they were forgotten by many authorities, from entrepreneurs who are living in one country but doing business in the other. So they were not entitled to receive support by the country they are living because they don't have economic activity. And they could not get the support in the other side because they don't have a residence. You know, all these absurdities showing that in an integrated Europe, you cannot close the borders. And even if you cross the border, probably you will not be able to do so. On the other hand, professors like Hinek Bon, who's working in 2 universities across border, in Liberec, Czech Republic, and Opole in Poland, he has started to describe the emergence of a cross-border civil society. It's not only about people crossing the border just on their own to work, to study, but there is a growing movement. And I think that our colleagues from the EGTC know this very, very well. There is much more than people crossing the border. It's about a cross-border society that probably is a beautiful brick for the construction of the European building. And this is something that suddenly during the pandemic was in the agendas of political agendas, but our question is, will it stay this after the pandemic? Will we forgotten everything that we have thought about the borders? Even for the first point is to see what is going to happen with the reconstruction funds. Are the member states coordinating measures with their neighbors in order to focus the priorities of the cross-border areas? Not only the border area, but the cross-border areas? Perhaps not, or not that much. That's why we decided to define a declaration, to present it at the Council of Europe. So to think in our European idea is not only the EU, but the whole Europe. And then we agreed on the lack of coordination of measures, the need to preserve the free movement of persons, to build up on the alliance that we have created with the Committee of the Regions and other institutions for cross-border citizens, and then to commit ourselves to establish closer cooperation, of course, during but after the pandemic. The question is the protection of the living standards of the citizens living in border areas, but also to try to mobilize all the resources. There are plenty of local and regional authorities all over Europe working every day to make their cross-border area better, taking into account that if you consider border areas only as such, they are peripheral, sometimes they lack infrastructure, services, and it's less attractive for inversion, for investments, or even for people to live there. So there is also the risk of brain drain, apart from other general challenges affecting particularly to border areas. Climate change affects everyone, but energy issues could be particularly delicate in border areas. Demographic change is affecting all over Europe, but our border areas are mostly rural. So there the question of demographic change and the challenge to retain the young talent is very high. So that's why we need a stronger coalition between local, regional, national, and European authorities in order to have a clear view on the needs of cross-border areas. We have to be able to identify the obstacles that prevent from doing some cross-border operations. We were listening to the fantastic initiative of the cross-border ITI, but this is the only one. 7 years ago, when they defined the ITIs in Europe, in the European Union, we thought, okay, this is perfect for cross-border areas. But now we see that only Gorizia and Nova Gorica, they were able to implement a real cross-border ITI. Why the others couldn't? Perhaps because there are obstacles. Sometimes the legislation collides, they are asymmetric. There are different competencies across the border, etc. In this sense, parenthesis, we are implementing for the European Union a project called B Solutions, which is has identified already 90 obstacles, legal and administrative obstacles to cross-border cooperation, which and also we have proposed solutions. I have to say, many of these obstacles have to do with transport, mobility, and employment across the border. These are the major, and we are concentrating very much on implementing these solutions, showing the European society that there is a need to go deeper in the process of European integration, to pay attention to the ground, to see. That's why we are trying, the three organizations, we're trying to collect evidence, documents, research, to digest this in order to make clear arguments to be shown in the different European institutions, but also to member states, regional governments, etc. So we are very proud to have signed this declaration and to take the motto of our president of our association, Karl-Heinz Lamberts, to say that if we want to overcome borders, we have to be allowed to cooperate. We should want to cooperate and should be able to cooperate. And for this, we need to remove all these obstacles, etc., which are still preventing developing what has been developed in some border areas for already 5 decades in some cases. This is the major message that we would like to deliver, but I would not like to close my intervention first by congratulating EURADRIA. in times of difficulties and challenges, projects like this one, mobilizing in different sectors the ideals of cross-border cooperation are extremely useful. But even concentrating also on the youth, we have taken part in some activities where the youth were very much involved. I think it's also a bet for the future. And on the other hand, I would like also to congratulate the EGTC Go, who was preceding me in the work, by their work for those many years before they were an EGTC, Gorizia and Nova Gorica, and some institutions in the area where has been, and they are very relevant for us, for our business. But also we are really impressed when they have achieved the cultural capital for 2025, particularly because this was, in principle, was Nova Gorica, but suddenly they involve also Gorizia and the EGTC. And then finally, when the President of the Republic of Slovenia, presenting this capital, invited the President of the Italian Republic, then suddenly one of our dreams was came true, is that the national level, the highest authority at the national level, have understood the cross-border potentiality of Europe. I hope that the other 25 member states will understand the message. And of course, we are trying to repeat this once again all the time. I thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you our views. And of course, I will stay at disposal if there are questions, etc. afterwards. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Thank you to all the panelists. We kindly ask you to stay logged since we will have 10 minutes of break and we will come back with the pools. So 3:12 we will have we are coming back, and due to the relevance of the audience and the panel, all the opinions will be so much relevant. So please stay logged and we will back in 10 minutes.
Sorry, I would remark not 3:12, but okay, 3 minutes after 12, so 10 minutes finally. Thank you.
Siete già qua? Ciao, 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 tutto bene?
So here we are, and we are ready to restart and to move to our final session. So thanks to all our speakers that let us able to better understand and point out many fundamental and useful elements to better plan our actions in the nearest future. Moreover, thanks to give us the opportunity to take stock of the ongoing progresses to sustain and improve our current and upcoming activities. We think that within a situation full of everyday changes, to stay updated on the evolution itself and on the opportunities we have is the better strategy to move forward. Have another look on EU, national and regional activities. It's also the best way to coordinate our actions and to design effective action plans, pointing out precisely and able to adhere to the evolving conditions. So finally, I hope that they could stay with us until the end of the conference, joining also the upcoming session. And as said before, we will share with you a poll to detect your opinions and better understand your priorities. So now, please, we ask you to join our online cross-border attitude poll, voting via Mentimeter. You can access the poll directly through Zoom or via your smartphone. We will work writing answers using Likert scales and ordering items. And after that, you will see the questions on your PC or smartphone and the results of your answers on our main screen. So let's participate, giving us your opinion on today's topics, but also to better know each other, and we hope start and reinforce our collaboration. So let's start joining Mentimeter. And here we can see the first answers to the first question. Where are we from? So we have Italy, Netherlands, Spain, and Slovakia. I saw the answer via chat. Okay. Okay, so I would like to remind you that all the answers and all the comments, I saw Malta, Ireland, will be collected at the end of the conference. Yes. Okay, if you can join, I would remark that you can access Mentimeter through your Zoom. You need to access Mentimeter on the right side of your screen, clicking on the button Visualize. Okay, so we have Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Slovakia, we said Ireland, Slovenia. Okay, someone told us that he's not able to join Mentimeter, but this is not a problem. We will collect all questions, comments at the closing of the conference, and we will produce a brief report and answer to your question after the end of the conference. But okay, I see the answers coming. Okay, so Belgium, Netherlands, Slovenia, Italy, Spain. Okay. Okay, Italy, more. Okay, so we finally understood that we have an audience variously composed, and we are very happy because this is the best proof, I think, that we are collaborating together. Okay, my colleagues are saying to me that if you want, you can join also Mentimeter through your smartphone. by simply accessing the website www.menti.com and entering the code you see on the screen. That is 39252590. Okay, but I think that we can proceed with the next question. Okay, we are waiting to understand who we represent. Okay, just, okay, who we are. So tell us who you represent. We have companies, we have public organizations, we have other private entities, we have individuals. So we have all our stakeholders and collaborators, and we are happy, also really happy also about these answers. Okay, the main part, as you can see, is represented by public organizations, so by services, but we have also many private entities, so many private stakeholders. Okay, then we have, okay, individuals, so job seekers, workers, self-employed, trainees, apprentices, and finally also companies and industries as employers that are really important for us and for our work. Okay, so I think that we can move on. Okay. Okay, and now our role, within society, we can say. So who we are: job seekers, workers, public officers, social workers, or teachers, maybe trainers, employers, self-employed. Okay, okay. The majority of us are public servants, public officers, but we have also workers within the private sectors and social workers. Okay. Okay, so, and now, what do we do? Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry, okay, you need your time to answer. Okay. Okay, so we move on what do we do? And here a brief comment, because please note that this question is based on the guidelines of the Joint Employment Report 2021 as adopted by the Council on 9th March 2021. The Joint Employment Report provides an annual overview of key employment and social developments in the European Union, as well as member states' reform actions, in line with the guidelines for the employment policies of the member states. So it's very, very important. And here one or more options are possible. Okay, someone, I'm reading the chat and someone has to go, but thank for joining. Thank you. Thank you, Roberta. Okay, so many of us promote labor supply, skills and competences. Okay, and we have also other sectors other activities represented here, and we will ask at the end of the conference what's your business, what you do exactly. Okay, the answers are coming. Okay, we have also an high percentage of organizations that promote equal opportunities for all, so social inclusion or fighting poverty. Yes. Okay, and we have an equal percentage of organizations promoting labor demand and job creation, but also enhancing the functioning of labor markets and promoting social dialogue. Okay, so we can say that all our participants are really, really active within the labor market. Okay, so we can move on. And for the next 3 questions, 5, 6, and 7, please note that the 3 following questions are based on the European Pillar of Social Rights, as proclaimed by the European Parliament, the Council, and the Commission on 6 November 2017. The European Pillar of Social Rights sets out 20 key principles and rights essential for fair and well-functioning labor markets and social protection systems. The 20 principles are the beacon guiding us towards a strong social Europe that is fair, inclusive, and full of opportunities. Today, we will focus our attention on the European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan that turns the principles into concrete actions to benefit citizens. And it also proposes headline targets for the EU to reach by 2030. As delivering the Pillar of Social Rights is a shared responsibility for the EU institutions, national, regional, and local authorities, social partners, and civil society. So a shared responsibility of all of us. We will have 3 questions based on the 3 chapters of the pillar on equal opportunities and access to the labor market, on fair working conditions, and on social protection and inclusion. And here on the screen, on the left side of your screen, you can see an image representing the principle under each chapter. So I'm saying that you already started placing in order, we can say, of importance, the key principle under the chapter 1. So equal opportunities and access to the labor market. Okay, and I think that we all agree that all these principles and or these elements are a priority. Okay, but I can say that the winner is the active support to employment, followed by education, training, and lifelong learning, for sure. Okay. Maybe to support a smooth transition from education to work, and for sure. Okay, you are still voting, so we will wait a few seconds more. Okay, also to have equal opportunities as very, very important. Okay. 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 So I think that it's possible to move to chapter 2. Okay, on fair working conditions, and here I can say the same exercise. So rate the importance of each item on a scale from 1, not important at all, to 5, maximum priority. So, okay, take your time. Okay, we are waiting for your answers. Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, so the lines are moving fast, really. Okay, we have the same percentage, we can say, of importance on secure and adaptable employment, on information about employment conditions and protection in case of dismissals. We have also, you rate also as very important the social dialogue and involvement of workers, for sure. Okay, but also the work-life balance. And okay, secure and adaptable employment is winning, we can say. Okay. And finally, for sure, is very important also healthy, safe, and well adapted work environment and data protection. Okay. Okay. I think, and the last condition, the less important, we can say, I am not sure that we can say that we can speak about the less important as about wages, but okay, we can understand for sure. Okay, and okay, I think that we can move on to the chapter 3 on social protection and inclusion. Okay, and here the same as previous, so rate the importance of each item. Okay, it takes a few minutes, I think, to visualize your results, your votation on our screen. Okay, but we have time to wait, so. Okay. I want also to remark that all the materials used today, we will send to the audience at the end of the conference. So within the upcoming days, you will have, you will receive via email all the materials. The same materials will be also published on the EURADRIA One-Stop Shop portal. And there you will find also the registration of this conference, but also a brief report and a sort of conclusions, we can say. Okay. It seems that Mentimeter is working slowly. Okay. Okay, so sorry for this inconvenience, but we are waiting for the results. We are sure that you are voting, so this is good, because if we will be not able to show you the results to this question now, we could collect all your answers, and for sure we will mention them within the report, so you will be already informed by the results in any case. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we move on to show you the targets to be reached by 2030. So 3 ambitious, we can say, EU targets by 2030 in respect, obviously, of the current situation. So the target number 1, at least 78% of the population aged 20 to 74 should be in employment by 2030. And where we stand, the coronavirus crisis has put a halt on a 6-year positive employment progress, with an employment rate of 72.4% by the 3rd quarter at 2020. And now the second target, at least 60% of all adults should be participating in training every year by 2030. And where we stand, by 2016, only 37% of adults were participating in learning activities every year. So only 37%, keep in mind. Okay, finally, we can move to target 3, reduction of at least 15 million in the number of people at risk of poverty or social exclusion. And where we stand, in 2019, around 91 million persons, out of which 17.9 million were children aged 0-17, were at risk of poverty or social exclusion in the EU. Okay, so after having your say on EU main priorities, let's deepen together the services qualifying cross-border and transnational job mobility. So here also take your time, read carefully, and rate the importance of the following services within the cross-border and transnational job mobility for frontiers, commuters, job seekers, workers, and employers, using a scale that you already know, from 1 to 5. And I can say that these sensors will be really fundamental to better design, I think, our services, to better orient our actions, and also to collaborate better all together. So, okay, the answers are coming fast, and we have, okay, I can read the first, okay, 3 answers, but I will wait until the voting will finish. Okay, to be sure. Okay, but for sure we have at the first place to offer information and guidance, and at the second place to, not the second place, okay. the voting are changing. Okay. Okay, I think that you finished. So we have to offer information and guidance, and at the same place, develop post-recruitment services and assistance, develop the online access to services through an online one-stop shop portal, so a unique website for all the cross-border services and infos. Okay, so we will base many of our activities, I think, on these answers. Before these answers are coming directly from our direct stakeholders. So, okay. And finally, okay, you are still voting, sorry. Okay, but I think that to offer information and guidance remains the fundamental element. Okay. So I think that we can move on. Okay, and now we would like to have your opinion on the main consequences of COVID-19 on the labor market. So in your experience, we would like to know which are the main effects of COVID-19 on EU labor market, between obviously the ones listed below. So please order these effects by relevance. We know that there are many effects, many elements that affected for sure the labor market, but we had to list here, to choose few here. Okay, so we choose increase the undeclared work, increase of unemployment rates within specific sectors, as for example, seasonal, agricultural, and tourism, increase of unemployment rates within vulnerables, as young people, disabled, females, and over 50, highest risk for job disruption for low-skilled, those in informal economy or self-employed, but also the need to reconvert companies, increase the need to invest more in reskilling, upskilling, adult training, also maybe focusing on digital skills. And finally, the acceleration of digitalization and automation. Okay, we are very curious about your answers, but it seems that Mentimeter doesn't want to collaborate with us together today. Sorry, I don't know why. We are speaking about collaboration, but okay. But as before, sorry, but we will collect all your answers and we will send you and we will show you the results after the conference. Okay. You are still voting. So. Okay. Okay. We will move on to the last question. Okay, so basing your opinion on your organization and company activities, please rate the importance of the following actions on a scale from 1 not important at all to 5 maximum priority. And after the main COVID-19 effects, we would like to know from you, so which are the intervention priorities to actively support employment following the COVID-19 crisis. This question is based on the Commission recommendation of March 2021 on an effective, active support to employment following the COVID-19 crisis. So we have 5 points. Okay, coherent policy packages to support labor market transitions, hiring and transition incentives and entrepreneurship support, upskilling and reskilling opportunities and support measures, enhanced support by employment services for job transitions, and finally, financing possibilities, monitoring and reporting. Okay, so it seems that the majority choose upskilling and reskilling opportunities and support measures, but also, okay, you are still voting, sorry. Okay, but I can see the relevance also of enhanced support by employment services for job transitions, and obviously coherent policy packages to support labor market transitions. Yes, for sure. Okay, we will wait a few seconds before to close the voting session. Okay, finally, I think that you all vote. I'm asking, sorry for confirmation. Okay, so you all gave us your opinion, and we thank you so much. And thank you finally for your participation. As already said, we will take few days to collect your answers and make brief report, but also your questions for sure, including obviously information on your activity and on your role within the labor market. The report will be published on the EURADRIA one-stop shop portal and shared with you. And the online poll on cross-border attitude will remain available within the EURADRIA Have You Say dedicated session, so within our one-stop shop portal, with the others already available. So thank you again, because your answers are so precious for us, as the ones coming directly, as I already said, from our direct stakeholders, and will contribute for sure to better orient our scopes and aims, planning and defining more targeted actions to better cooperate and achieve our common results. We are well aware, finally, that your opinions represent your needs. And for this reason, we will continue to work by translating them in priorities, we can say, and elements in general, on which to concentrate our attention. So finally, thank you again for your participation, for your contributions. Stay updated on the cross-border activities via our one-stop shop portal and social media channels. via the portals of all the active cross-border partnerships in Europe, and contact us for any need or request of support. And finally, the floor to Giulia to have a final announcement.
Yeah, as a final announcement, we are completing and starting the phase of delivery a landing page that will be set up for the portal in order to create a proper instruments of dissemination that will contain all the principal information, so all the audience and the target will be more facilitated to get all the information to get in contact with the portal. There will be a dissemination action that we will utilize also with graphic materials, video content that will explain all the opportunities that this action as provides, and to allow all the audience to be more in contact and to effectively activate a proper dissemination related to the project. Thank you to everyone.
Oh, thank you again, and see you in 2022. Thank you. Bye.